Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Mohammed. I am one of the members of the Somalis in Tech team. Today we've got our first event, so we're very, very glad and thankful for you all joining us, especially those of you that joined us so promptly. And we've got a packed sort of schedule today. But just before we get started, our colleague Adam will give us a little introduction about Somalis in Tech, but I just wanted to say a few words, the reason why we've come together. So we've got Abshir, who sort of had this idea to, in a way, I guess, give back to the community and amplify the many different Somalis in tech. We've noticed it's quite sporadic. You've got a few here, got a few there, but hopefully we're hoping that this community will be an opportunity for us to come together and hopefully connect and grow collectively. So I'll just speak on the schedule. Adam's going to tell you a little bit about Somalis in Tech. We've got our partners for this event, Idean. Sophie, she's going to share a little bit about what they do. They've been pretty awesome throughout this whole process, so she's going to let you know a bit more about them, which we're looking forward to. And then we have three wonderful speakers with us today. We've got Mo, Rahma, and Firdaus. They're going to share their journeys and their experiences in their respective fields, how they got into tech, and any advice and pearls of wisdom, I guess, they have to share. And yeah, then we'll be closing. Hopefully we've got a feedback form for you all as well, for you to just let us know what went well, what didn't, what we could improve on. The aim is for this to be as collaboratively as possible. So I'd really appreciate if you could all share the feedback at the end. And once we have our speakers come on, we'll be starting with Mo in a bit. And after his presentation, feel free to use either the YouTube to put in your Q&A, or in the Zoom, you can ask questions as we go along as well. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Adam now, who'll share a little bit about our mission and goals.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. I'm just sharing my screen right now. Get full screen. Cool. Can everyone see that? Is that good?
Yep, good. See that, Adam? Yeah.
So Somalis in Tech. So Somalis in Tech is essentially a community hub for all things Somali in tech. Let me just click that. Next. Whoops, went too fast. So yeah, our mission is threefold. Our first kind of priority is to empower. So we want to help upskill the community into different various tech roles, such as software engineering, cloud engineering, data science, as well as kind of non-technical roles, such as kind of UX, UI, service design, content design, as well as product management. Secondly, we want to connect Somali techies across the world, kind of give them the space to collaborate, spark new ideas. And once we've kind of got people empowered and kind of connected, we want to help Somalis grow and kind of create their own kind of new startups, their kind of new, and if they're kind of existing startups, we want to help them along their scale-up journey. And also kind of help people grow within their career, kind of get kind of into that next senior position as a senior software engineer through kind of mentorship. But I'll kind of elaborate more on how, but those are kind of, that's our mission. So the focus is, firstly, is to empower, to connect, and then to grow. So our why. So our first why is to tackle diversity in the global tech industry. So Somalis in Tech, we sit within kind of a larger black tech community, and kind of, as you can see, kind of through social events and whatsoever, there's kind of a very, very big kind of gap in terms of diversity within tech, whether that is through kind of employment or kind of black tech founders. And we want to kind of tackle those issues head on. And we also want to help kind of through address kind of problems back home, as well as in Somali diaspora communities, and help out through tech solutions, because tech is great in the sense that if you kind of solve one problem, you can kind of scale that solution to 1,000 people. And tech, as well as kind of the accessibility of tech, we want to kind of leverage tech to solve our community problems. So yeah, so going on kind of to the how. So I think firstly, we want to have kind of mentorship programs, so mentorships with established techies and entrepreneurs. Secondly, in terms of kind of tackling those social problems, the best way to do that is to host a hackathon, which is centered around a Somali kind of societal problem, and kind of bringing in talent together and kind of focusing on solving a problem over a weekend or so. So yeah, more community-led events. So we want to host panel discussions, workshops, as well as informal networking events. So we want this to kind of be an informal, kind of have a fun aspect to it as well. So like coffee catch-ups and etc. And also we want to have more partnerships, partnerships such as with, for example, with Idean, who have been really, really helpful throughout this process so far, but with other tech companies, with other companies as well, not tech companies as well as agencies, to help kind of leverage their recruitment opportunities, so that they're able to present to our members. So yeah, we want to kind of tap into a global Somali network, because Somalis are literally everywhere, and they're occupying senior positions in tech companies, and a lot of them are just kind of secretly like living their lives on LinkedIn, and we want to kind of bring them out into the light and leverage them and use them to help kind of empower our community. So yeah, if you want to get involved, our hashtag's there, our Twitter's there, and our email's there. Cool.
Cool. Thank you very much, Adam. So yeah, just before we hear from Sophie, just a shout out to Idean as a whole. And we were hoping to have our first event in March, but of course, yeah, Adam, if you could just share your screen as well, the Idean slide will be next. So as I said, we were hoping to have our first event in March, but due to COVID, that didn't go through. But it was through collaboration with Sophie and the team, who are going to really put us have that event together. So we thought it's only fitting that we're now having our first remote event. We hear from the team. So yeah, over to you, Sophie.
Hey, and thanks for the intro. Yeah, it's awesome to still be included in the event, because as you said, we were going to host it back in March, which seems like ages ago now. But super glad to still be with you today. Hopefully we can do something maybe in person in the future, or we can do more of these. It will still be good to be involved. So as like someone on the people team, I just like wanted to say that events are such a brilliant way to meet people. You kind of do it informally, which is super nice. You're able to get on the radar and you can speak to people for a long time as well. It's how I met Abshir Mohammed and Adam, and that was through another community, which was Islamic Makers, and one of their organisers, Taz. So it's just really nice to make those connections with lots of different people. As you mentioned before, like this is why we're doing it. We want to make sure we can make these partnerships to talk about diversity within the design and tech industry, and the lack of it, and how we can increase that, and how we can amplify speakers from different backgrounds. It's super important. I'll just do a quick couple minutes about us, what we do and what we're looking for as well. And then if anyone wants to get in touch with me afterwards, my email will be on a couple of slides, so please do. So for those of you who don't know Idean, we're a design and business transformation consultancy. We're usually based in Old Street, but we've been working remotely for the past 5 months. I think our plan's to go back in September, but not back to a 5-day working week, which is quite nice. Well, not 5 days in the studio anyway. So what we do, we help businesses either create something new, what we call a beta business, or we transform an existing product into something hopefully more usable for customers, and then in turn being better for the client as well. So the beta business is similar to a startup with a backing from a large scale company, or it's transforming an existing product. We're about 70 people permanently, with 20 freelancers or so. We've got now 8 office dogs. That's gone up hugely since lockdown. I think it's been a huge purchase for a lot of people. An example of some of the work we do, and one of our biggest projects, is Smarty, which is with 3. Smarty is a mobile virtual network operator. We built about 2 years ago in 6 months. We wanted to create something simple, usable and honest, which what we're proud to say we've done. Throughout the past year, we've been creating and shipping new features for it, as well as expanding our user list. So that is kind of example of one of the beta businesses that we've done with 3. And then one of the reasons I just wanted to say a few words is, even though we're not in the studio, is that we started hiring again. Our team is made up of service designers, product managers, tech and business designers, as well as the operations team, which I'm a part of. So lots of different people who aren't just developers. So going on to this event as well. We're currently looking for a senior visual designer and lead or senior full stack developers to join our team. I think there's going to be a bigger pickup on designers as the next couple of months as we start winning new business as well, which is great. But if you want to find out about either job, please just send me an email on sophie.aston@idean.com and we can have a chat. If you do just want to generally find out more about us, also just feel free to get in touch. Our website says some bits, but I'm always here for a chat, and obviously at home at the moment as well. So can free for a Google Hangout whenever you need. But yeah, really, really happy to be here.
And absolutely relate to that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sophie. Yeah, so absolutely. So yeah, for those who are with us, you can see there's some good roles there. Do get involved. Part of what we hope to do with Somalis in Tech is just like now, hopefully do intros for, we know there are great sort of designers, product managers, and many various roles within the community. So we hope to make sure that we partner with organizations so that they can actually get a little bit of some good roles that they might not have had access to before. So yeah, thank you very much, Sophie. I'm going to hand over to Mo, who is a senior technical product manager consultant. He's been in the tech industry for maybe even over 11 years. So he'll tell us a little bit about product management, what it is. I'm a product manager myself, but I'm sure I'm going to be learning a tip or two from Mo. So yeah, Mo, when you're ready, if you could share your screen, and we'll go through your slides, that'll be really cool.
Awesome, great. First of all, assalamu alaikum everyone. Let me just share my screen for. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great, awesome. All right, so my name is Mohammed Salhan. As some of you may know me as Mo Salhan. I'm an engineer turned technical product manager. So I guess the first question to answer is, what does a product manager actually do? Before I can answer that question, let's just go back to approximately 10 years ago when the role of a digital product manager wasn't very popular. And organizations would typically have two departments. The business department, where you've got your senior management, you've got founders or owners, and you have your IT project team department. That would consist of programmers, project managers, designers, application testers, analysts, and marketers. And essentially, you have people from the business telling people in IT what to do and what to build. Now, there's a problem with this, is that as the product, when I say product, I'm talking about a website or an app, grows bigger, senior management becomes too busy, and they usually will take a step back from the product because of other commitments. So meaning they have less time to get involved with the project on a daily basis. Sometimes the business will lack the technical expertise and not being able to talk the tech language with engineers and designers as the product becomes more complicated. They would lack domain level expertise, and this will lead to a frustrated project team because strategy is either non-existent, it's vague, or it's too slow, which results in a lot of waste when it comes to money and also the cost of opportunity. So the million-dollar question has always been, if we have an IT department or project team, what's the next functionality to build? What's our product roadmap so that we can improve our business? And not every company has tech to make money. Sometimes they use tech to reduce costs, or sometimes they're just trying to build a more loyal consumer base. So they sat down and they said, how about if we appoint someone who's a digital expert and we give this person a project team, we give this person some marketing budget to help us on our behalf improve the product and help us grow or help us achieve our business goals. Now, let me give you an example. Let's take Facebook. So in the early days, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, he was both the product manager, i.e. he was deciding what to build, but he was also the founder. But today, Facebook is a global enterprise platform with over 2 billion users, and it generates over billions and billions in annual revenue. And today, Facebook is not a website anymore, it's a platform. And within the Facebook platform, there are products within the platform. So for example, Facebook groups is a product within the Facebook platform, and each product has its own product team who's led by a product manager. So for example, Facebook Messenger is a feature within Facebook, but it will have a product team that will consist of a product manager, the programmers, the designers, the analysts, the testers. Facebook Rooms, which is one of the one of the newest products that they've just, I think they announced it last month or the month before, to compete with Zoom. That will be led by a product manager who will decide how it looks, how it will function. Within that team, you have programmers, designers, analysts, and testers. So in a nutshell, a product manager is almost like a mini CEO who looks after a particular section of a platform, if the platform is big, like Facebook or Netflix or even Amazon, or it looks after a whole website or an app. So for example, one of my current clients is River Island, a large retailer in the UK, and I look after their native iOS and Android apps. So I look after the apps on behalf of e-commerce director, and I'm being given a certain set of budget in order to hit certain KPIs. And within my team, I have programmers and developers and designers, etc. A day in the life of a product manager, really quickly. So my day consists of doing a lot of competitor research. So I'm looking at what are the competitors, what are they releasing, how are their customers actually reacting to it. I'm trying to come up with innovative ideas in order to improve the product. I am analyzing data. So what I mean by that is, all these tech companies, they have a lot of data that they can analyze in terms of how users are using the product and how they're navigating through the product. I'm trying to find problems with the product. So I'm reading a lot of app reviews. I'm reading feedback that we get through email. I'm also approving new functionality releases. So whenever there's a new functionality that I said go and build, I'm also the final person who actually approves for that feature to go to the market. I'm working with C-level. So C-level would be your top level management team, CEO, CFO, to actually define the strategy. I'm working with engineers, working with designers, and also working with the project managers who are managing the budget, who are managing the timelines, etc., etc. Now, how and why did I get into product management in the first place? As I mentioned, that I was actually an engineer before product management. Although I started off as an engineer, I've always been extremely interested in the whole life cycle of a product. Naturally, I've always been very curious about actually everything, especially tech. I like to come up with new ideas, and I felt that engineering and coding was limiting my creativity and business acumen. So I mentioned on the earlier slide, product life cycles, and typically you'd have 5 or 6 stages to a product. You start off with your strategy, then you break it down to smaller ideas, and then you design those ideas, and then you hand over from design to code, and then you hand over from code to test, and then you go out and you market that product or you market that functionality. So I was developing what was designed. I had no say on strategy. I had no say on how to market it. And I felt like there wasn't a explosive career growth as I'm not ultimately accountable for success. Usually the designers, the developers, the testers, they're not ultimately accountable for the growth. The product managers are. So after about 4 or 5 years doing this, I just got kind of bored of it. But since I moved into product management, like I said, I'm involved in every aspect of the product life cycle. So I define and I create a strategy. I own which idea gets built, which also actually comes with a lot of responsibility. So there is, my success will be celebrated, but also if it fails, my neck is on the line. I influence the design. I influence the programming. I influence also the go-to-market plan. And also usually with product manager, there is potential for explosive growth, including financial bonuses if you hit your KPIs. And it's also a great stepping stone to become a CEO of a tech company, due to its versatility of the role. So let's dive a little bit more into detail with a few more examples of what actually product managers do in the industry. So let's take, for example, Netflix product manager. So the product manager at Netflix could tell his team, let's build a trending top 10 feature so that Netflix customers can find content easier. And by helping users to consume more content, we will decrease subscription cancellation, resulting in Netflix making more money. So do you see the correlation between coming up with a feature that the engineering team can design and build that helps the user, but also helps the business? Because by helping people to consume more content and getting spending more time on Netflix, that means they're less likely to cancel their subscription, which results into billions and billions of profit for Netflix. Another example is Uber. So the first iteration of Uber, the first version that came out, I think in 2008 or something, it didn't have the pickup zone feature. So today, if you book an Uber, you will see like a pickup zone feature to tell you your driver has arrived, go to that pickup zone. So a product manager at Uber could say, let's build a pickup zone feature so that drivers and passengers, they can find each other easier, so that people will enjoy using the Uber app more, and by using it more often, we will make more money. Again, do you see the correlation? By solving a customer problem, also solves a business problem. Spotify, the product manager at Spotify could say, hey, why don't we build a AI personalization feature, right? So that Spotify listeners don't need to spend a lot of time trying to find music and trying to build new playlists. Instead, they will listen to Spotify's recommendation. Hopefully this will improve their satisfaction using the Spotify, and thus they are more likely to upgrade or keep their premium subscriptions, which will make Spotify more money. Again, the correlation between building something that makes the experience better for the user correlates into the business making more money. So how do you, as a product manager, find inspiration or even decide what to build next? How do you know? Well, you take inspiration from various sources. One, we talked about data before. So you look at data on how users are using the product, how are they navigating through the product, how often are they using the app. You keep a very close tab on what your competitors are doing. So often you see competitors actually copying each other. So when Snapchat released stories, Instagram released stories, now Facebook does stories, and I'm pretty sure there's other social platforms that I'm not on that are using stories too. Studying surveys. So whenever you see a survey or you've been asked to, to answer a poll, that data that gets sent to someone that works in product to study what users are saying. You can use your own or your team's past experience in terms of what they built and what worked. It's also very common for people in tech to move to another competitor. Going through your app reviews, going through your competitor app reviews, working with your research and development department. So if you're working for a mature company, it's very likely that you will actually have a research department, but also nothing is guaranteed. So, testing with a small group of users, is extremely popular before releasing the feature to everyone. So actually, contrary to your belief, if you see a new feature on any app that you use, it doesn't actually necessarily mean that feature is released to everyone in the world. You might just be in a test group and they're just testing out how people are reacting to it. What skills do you need to be a good product manager? So one, you need to be well-rounded from a technical perspective. You don't need to be the most amazing programmer or developer, but you should be able to understand tech so that you can actually communicate properly with your engineers. You have to have business acumen. When you're talking to C-level, when you're talking to management, they only want to know numbers. So you need to be able to crunch the data, knowing, okay, if we invest, say, X in building the next feature, for example, £50,000, in return, we're going to get 1 million, for example. It helps to have a good eye for user experience and design, and also to have good solid marketing skills as well. That was the end of the presentation. I hope that was useful. Is it time for me to take questions, or is that at the
Yeah,
end?
no, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So anyone who's got any questions, we're going to put them in the chat. So we've got a question here now. 1 second. Yeah, so this question is from Mohammed. Would you recommend joining a career in tech as soon as possible, i.e. you've graduated, but your degree has nothing to do with tech? Question. So that's the first question from Mohammed, and that's questions on Zoom. So would you recommend joining a career in tech as soon as possible? Like if you've graduated, but your degree has nothing to do with tech?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the great things about tech is, in my opinion, there are less barriers to get into it in comparison to other industries. So for example, let's compare it to medicine. You know, there are far more barriers to get into medicine, and law, the same thing. Whereas with tech, you know, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, they all have dropped the previously mandatory requirement. Tech is something that, with a few disciplines actually, like programming and design, is something that you can actually learn yourself. So due to there are obviously some barriers, but there aren't as many barriers in other industries. But also there's just so much demand right now for various disciplines in tech. So 100%, if tech is something that you are looking to get into it, the best time to start is today.
Cool, thank you very much, Mo. We've got a question from Hiba. She's asking, how was the transition from your previous role to product manager, and how did you manage it? It seems like there's a huge learning curve.
So like I said, I've always been super interested in, even when I was an engineer, in marketing and design, and I was doing side projects myself. I was teaching myself online marketing. So the transition wasn't as hard for me, but also, just like any discipline, the more you invest into it, right? So for example, if you spend 10 minutes a day learning Arabic, it might take you 5 years to learn Arabic. But if you spend 2 hours a day learning Arabic, you might get there within 6 months. So it really depends how much you get into it. And I think what's really, really important is that, you know, you have good mentors, you've got good coaches. So I was lucky that at the place that I was working, we had product managers, and I made it quite clear that, you know, I'm going to transition into the product, so I could actually learn hands-on on a day-to-day basis on actually what a product manager does.
Cool. Thank you, Mo. We've got a few more questions for you, but we're gonna hear from Rahma, and hopefully, I'm hoping we'll have a bit more time. And for those who've asked these questions, so we've got a question from Mukhtar, Mohammed as well, and Nadia. So what we'll do is, we've got a few on YouTube as well. So we've got quite a few questions, but what I want to do is I want to hear from the speakers, and then hopefully we can have more of a chat afterwards. So for those who are willing to stay past the half past mark, we'll stay and we'll address more of these questions later, inshallah. So yeah, we're going to hear from Rahma now. Rahma is a service designer. I worked in government digital service for a while, and it had to be broken down to me what a service designer is and does. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Rahma, because it's a role that I'm not too familiar with. So yeah, let's hear from Rahma. And thank you very much, Mo. As predicted, I did learn a few things here and there. So I might even be reaching out to you myself afterwards, just to pick up a bit more from your experience. So thank you very much. So yeah, I'll hand over to Rahma. Talk to us. So
sorry. So my name is Rahma. I don't think I've introduced myself to everyone. So I'm a service designer, and I work for Hackney Council. I just wanted to say quickly, Mo's presentation was awesome. I don't have any slides. It's a miracle that I'm actually able to even stay awake, because I have a 3-month-old baby who's out and about now enjoying fresh air. But yeah, in terms of service design, what that is, actually, I don't even think I'd be able to explain it properly. I'll tell you. I can see Sophie's laughing. And I'll tell you why, because actually, it's an ongoing joke with my husband, because every time I start a presentation at work or explain what service design is, I always start with, what is service design? So he's always repeating, what is service design? What is service design? And I think it's because it just really means different things for different people. And it just encompasses so many different aspects. And it's just really hard to drill down to what exactly it is. But what service design is for me and what it is for Hackney, I can talk a little bit about that. So service design, actually, let me just back up a little bit. So I've been working for Hackney Council for about 2 years now. And before I started working for Hackney Council, they were working with service designers, but there was no service design positions there. And that's because a local authority previously used to pretty much sort of buy off the shelf products, or sort of they would work with designers, but not into the same capacity as they do now. So they hired service designers and a digital design team overall, which includes user researchers, front-end devs, and us as service designers, to really move away from buying things and creating things that are more tailored to the people that are going to be using them. And so what we do is we're really based within IT in Hackney Council. I don't know if everyone is from the UK, but the councils in the UK work within so many different services, and all of these are, you know, anything from physical spaces, anything from sort of change management to products. Because we're based within ICT, a lot of the services we offer or create really are digital products. But within that, because we're also very new to the council, there's a lot of change management that's part of our work as well. And that includes things like, you know, why should people consider working with users? Because a lot of local authorities have created services before, but they don't see it as service design. It's just, we create services and we have an idea and this is how it should be. But our work really starts from sort of a user-centered design way of thinking, which is quite jargony really, but it's sort of designing with users in mind. So there's a process that we follow, which includes sort of, you know, working with people that are going to be using the service, working with a wider group of people that are delivering that service to start off with, and understanding what the different needs are. And then testing that out with the users and making sure that the end product ultimately is something that can be used, and that is also, hopefully, also provides a better experience. So there's a process within that. But again, having said that, your question is, what is service design? It's really, really, really broad. And again, you know, it depends on the project you're working on. It depends on the team you're working with. It could be that you're working with an example is, I was working with HR. They wanted a new service for one of their products. And my work within service design there wasn't just to create a product or end product. It was also to help them understand why it's important to consider users, you know, why the other product that they had failed and was unusable, and why it's important to work in this new way. So as part of change management, it was also part of creating a digital product in the end. So part of our work, the way we work, is really understand users. So we do a lot of research. I think some of the stuff that you were talking about earlier as well, Mohammed, was around, you know, do a little bit of user research, understand who's going to be using this. And service design particularly might look at sort of the bigger picture as well. So what's involved in this whole system? Who are the people? What is the process? What tools are going to be used? And understanding the big picture, and then going into details. So I'm trying to think about an example I can give you. So if you're looking at I don't know, Hackney, if you want to redesign the Hackney sort of customer services, for instance, you might want to look at, you know, what are the digital product that people interact with? Who are the people that they interact with when coming into the council offices? How does the physical space look like? So you might want to look at all those information, but then you might want to drill into little details in terms of, like, if people are, if the feedback from people are really just about the customer services, you might want to zoom into that and understand how does that work, what works well, what doesn't work well, are there any opportunities to improve that? So sort of looking at the big thing and then drilling into the details, because you might not always be able to solve all the big problems. You might just want to focus in on a few of them. I hope that explains it a little bit. It's probably confused you more than what
it's demystified at some part. I've not had the fortune of working closely with service designers, but I don't know what it is about you service designers. Everybody that only has good things to say, and it might be because you're always sort of taking a zooming out to see how, you know, that product or service relates to other aspects of the business or organization. So yeah, no, it definitely does go somewhere to answering that.
Cool.
Go on.
No, sorry, I was just, yeah.
Yeah, I had a question for you. So if, you know, how would somebody get into service design? Because it's not something that we've heard about much, you know, like it's not something that in uni, unless you're already in sort of the design field that you hear about. How could somebody break into that?
I think there's so many different ways. I mean, the good thing is about service design, the skills that's needed is really a lot of transferable skills. So being able to empathize with people, just being really curious, being really adaptable as well. So when you find out new information about something, are you able to take that on board and change things around? Being curious and being comfortable with things that are unknown. So just being really comfortable with ambiguity. So there's a lot of skills that are transferable. Myself, really, I did a degree in service design. So I did my master's in service design. But when I did that in 2015,
okay.
And at the time, there weren't that many universities that were offering service design courses. It was pretty new. It's increased now. I wouldn't necessarily say that it is it's the preferable way. I'm just a geek, so I just wanted to study really as well, to be fair. But I mean, and also I think there are different avenues, there are transferable skills. I think the most important thing that made a difference to me, I had a degree, luckily I finished that and I was happy with it, but there was a big gap between having a degree and actually doing the work, you know, because there weren't that many junior service design roles available when I was applying. And I'm not sure if that's the case now. I think because it's such a new career path, to many organizations, they tend to look for people with experience who can just come in and get the ball rolling rather than starting from scratch. So I would say, you know, if you can self-study, if you don't want to take the university route, you can definitely self-study. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of people who do service design that you can connect with, whether that's through mentoring, whether that's through, you know, finding people on LinkedIn, on Twitter, who are able to offer you some kind of experience. But ultimately, try and test things out. And that was really the biggest thing for me, because I finished my degree and I didn't land my role within the council. And it's my first official service design job. I did UX for another company, but it was in service design.
Okay.
The way I transitioned was I used service design within my role. So I was able to build the real life examples of how service design can change things within the organizations I was working for. And I did that unprompted. You know, I just thought, you know, how can you just, if I came across a problem, I would use service design thinking and design thinking to think about how I could solve this problem, so that when I ended up applying for a role, I could give those examples, real life examples. And I think that's really important in anything you do, really, to think about not necessarily what's out there and how can I, how am I suitable for it, but if you really want to do something, is thinking about how can I make that happen now, so that you build those experiences within yourself and that you can have those examples later.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. We have a few questions for you as well. So you touched on UX already, but Mukhtar is asking, what are the key differences between a service designer and a UX UI designer?
So again, it's very different, different answers from different people. I would say in the places I've worked, you service design, again, sort of looks at the big picture. It looks at, you know, like I said, process, people, resources, physical space, change, and all of those things. UX, in my thinking, it's more about, you know, if you have a digital product, what are the things that what is the experience you can change within that digital product? So it's more narrow. In the organizations I've worked for, it's more narrow. It's more about what functions can you change, what is the filter, where does things lie in the page, you know, how do you maneuver through a site in the best way possible, in a way that obviously depending on the organization gives a return on investment. UI is user interface design. I think that's what it stands for. It's based in the places I've worked, it's more visual. So what are the visual aspects of that page, or again, more narrow thinking. So I would say services are more broader, but you can zoom in, which a lot of us do anyway. So I would say a lot of service designers work in that space of being service design and sort of UX design, because a lot of organizations don't have the resources to have both. Yeah. And UX is more digital focused, and sort of what is the experience within that digital space, and UI is what are the visuals. Cool. And how do they function. Yeah.
We've got one more question for you as well from Eamon, which is, can you give me an example of tasks you do day to day?
Yeah, I mean, I would say a typical task that all service designers probably know is sort of journey mapping or creating blueprints. So I'll give you an example actually. So we were working, just before I went on maternity leave, we were working on how does, for instance, that complaint journey look like in Hackney. So we conducted a little bit of research to understand, and that could be anything from speaking to people directly, even doing a little bit of desk research to understand what does the journey look like for people who go into debt, and the interactions with Hackney Council, and do they come out of it? What is their experience? So we're looking at different things. What are their needs? How can we better support them? So a good tool we use is called customer journey mapping, and it's understanding, we draw out that journey and look at how does a person interact with, like I said, how does a person interact with the council? And we'll literally have a beginning. So for instance, person A got into debt, and before they got into debt, this is what their situation looked like. At this point, they interact with the council. At this point, they have this is the next experience that they have, which is another interaction with the council. And then we follow through that journey all the way until the end. And then we layer that with, you know, what were their needs at these specific points? What did they feel at these specific points? And sort of what were the costs to the council at these specific points? So we look at all the different details of someone's journey, and then we try to understand, you know, where are we failing? Where could we support better? Where are there opportunities to improve things better? So it's called Customer Journey Map. You can look that up. There's like hundreds and thousands of different versions.
Cool.
So
awesome.
yeah.
Cool, awesome, thank you. We've got a few more questions as well, but we'll come back to those as well after we hear from Firdaus. Thank you very much, Rahman. You definitely demystified a very, very big topic. So hopefully, once we hear more from when you get a few, once we get you to answer some of the other questions later on, people will leave quite informed about service design and what they can do to get involved. I was quite excited when Adam was like, "Yeah, he came across your profile on LinkedIn." I was like, "Oh wow, I definitely want to hear from a service designer." Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Thank you very much, Rahman.
Cool, thank you.
Cool. I'm going to hand over to Firdaus. Firdaus is a content designer at GDS. She's going to let us know a little bit more about what that is, what they do. And I think Firdaus has some slides that she's going to share with us. So I'll let you share your screen when you're ready, Firdaus.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
We've passed the first hurdle. I'm going to now share my screen.
Sure.
Oh, it's coming up with something interesting. Well, let's do this. Stop.
It wouldn't be a Zoom call without some technical issue.
and it wouldn't happen to anybody but me. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Great, nice. So yes, my name is Firdaus Ali, and I am currently a content designer. And I say currently because I am one of those people who's very curious and has a lot of interests, and I go where my interests take me. So currently I'm a content designer, and I'm a content designer at GDS. So who is a content designer? A lot of these terms, content designer, service designer, they are new terms, but don't let them put you off. They're just a new manifestation of roles that have existed in the past. And there are reasons why they now exist. And I'll go a little bit into that as we go along. So a content designer will help a user find and do things they need to do. I work within content design, obviously in the digital space, and currently because I work within government, government has a lot of information that they need to get across to a lot of people. And as you can imagine, you will then need somebody to help people find the limitless amount of information the government needs to get across to people. The government also wants people to do things, and we have to make it as easy as possible for people to do these things. And one of the ways in which we do that is by speaking to them in a way that is clear and succinct and not confusing. And that's where a content designer comes in the digital space. So some of the things a content designer might do, if we go anti-clockwise from the top right, just to be different. For instance, I would be involved in writing text for forms. So for instance, that sentence at the top that says, when was your passport issued? Believe it or not, that could take weeks to decide on what that line should say, and it will be based on user research, talking to people about what they think things mean. That word issued is a very specific word. Do people actually understand what issued means? And if they do, and only if they do, would we use that word in that sentence, for instance? So that would be my job. I would work with a user researcher who would sit with people and we would show them various sentences and get them to tell us what they think that means. And then we'd pick the sentence that most people understand to be what we want them to understand. And only then would we then put it on any of our digital products or the website. Also simple things like buttons, what should be on buttons. This specific one says start now. There's a million reasons why it's start now and not just start or begin. All of that is based on what users want to see and understand. And some of the other things would be like error messages. For instance, on the screen here, we see, sorry, there's a problem with the service. There is a reason that was chosen and would be written by somebody like me. Let's go into, and the top left, we just have a sign that you might see when you are driving on the road. That's also something a content designer would get involved in. The text on that sign, why you'd work with what they call it, what we see as old school designers, the visual guys. Yeah, a visual designer would come up with the colors, and then you may decide as a content designer which one of those, the order in which those cities appear on that sign. This is probably like an old example of what a content designer would do back in the day, but they wouldn't be called that. They would have been called something else. Let's move on to the next slide. This is an example of something I could work on. Let's say we have a 16-year-old Abdel Fattah. He's 16, he thinks he wants to start learning to drive, and that would involve him having to apply for something that we call a provisional driving license. So he would go into Google and he'd put in provisional driving license. And hopefully if we've done our job right, this is the official page where anybody in the country would need to come to in order to apply for a provisional driving license. So Abdel Fattah finds himself on the page, he's really excited, and then he's looking around, he sees a big green button. But before he clicks on that button, there's some information that we need to tell him before he clicks on the button. Some of that is he even old enough to be applying for a provisional license? So he looks at that and goes, oh, 15 years, 9 months, I'm 3 months older than that, fine, this is good for me. We also let people know if there's any other languages that this page is available on. And Abdel Fattah at that point can click the start button. But if he's a little more patient, he can see that underneath the button, there's a bit more information about money. And he sees £34 and he's 16, and he now has to go and beg, borrow, or work for these £34. So before he even clicks on that button, we've given him all of the information he needs. And I would be the person deciding on the placement of the information on that page. Is it above the green button? Is it below the green button? And also making a decision about how we relay that information. So if Abdel Fattah decides he wants this, he has £34, he has a Visa card, and he's 16 years old, so he's allowed to do this, and he wants to click on the start button. When he clicks on that button, it takes him to a page that we would call a service, and that's something Rahma would build, and I would work with Rahma on what that page would look like and provide the content for it. On the right-hand side of the page, you will see that there is a little more information Abdel Fattah really needs to know, and that information is he can't actually drive until he's 17. So the crux of this page is how to allow this person to apply for the driving license, but there's a little more nuance to it, and we'd only know about that nuance if we'd done our user research properly, and we would know that there's a core group of people who are 16, really hungry, and want that provisional license and want to be on the road quickly, but actually they can't drive. So there's information on the right-hand side that says, check you're allowed to drive, and Abdel Fattah will then see he needs to be 17 to drive. So he can go, 17 is a whole year away. And when you're young, that feels like a lifetime. So he might decide, actually, I'm going to spend my £34 on something else, and I'll come back in 6 months, 8 months, and I'll apply for the license at that point, which means he doesn't have to click on the button, and he doesn't even have to use the service. And he goes away knowing what the journey is going to be when he comes back in the future. So this is something that I would probably be working with user researchers, interaction designers, and maybe delivery managers, or what they might call even project managers, to get this page in a good enough shape so it serves all users, not just Abdel Fattah. Okay, so why did I get into content design? It's because I had digital experience already. I used to be a web developer. I have a degree in engineering. I'm one of those weird people, you know, if you've ever seen those little quizzes and tests that you do that says, are you left-brained, are you right-brained? And then I do the test and I get 50%. And I knew that as a child, that I loved numbers and I loved words equally. So I'm trying to satisfy my interest in both sides of my brain, let's say. So I had digital experience. Initially, I would build web pages that were driven by databases, you know, online shops, that kind of thing. And then I got bored of it. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe the front end of things is a little more interesting, where I work within the marketing departments and I take care of content and web builds and I project manage those. And then I did that for a while. And then now I've come to the point where I think actually I just want to specifically be mostly interested in writing content and designing content, because I enjoy research, I enjoy talking to people, solving problems, making a difference. I think that's why I'm currently within government. And I love to write, and you know, hopefully by the time I'll die, I would have written in every medium possible. That's like my little big life goal. So far I've written plays, I've written articles, I'm trying to do the TV and the film thing. It hasn't gone great yet, but I did get named on the BBC Hot Talent New Writers list, so I did make some inroads. As I speak, you'll know that all of these areas that we try to break into are very difficult for us. We have to work 10 times harder. We have to do things other people don't have to do. We have to prove ourselves in a way that's just really sometimes exhausting. And when you have multiple interests, like I hope many of you do, you can become exhausted by all of these things. One life advice would be pick one thing and give it everything, and then move on to another thing. What else? How did I get into content design? One, really crucial, make the decision and make it, this is the thing, I'm doing everything possible. You have to really, really know why you want to do this. And then I learned as much as possible as I could about this new thing called content design. And then I looked at my previous work experience and my CV, and I said, what things in my previous experience speak to this new thing called content design? And I'm going to pull all of those things and I'm going to create a new CV, and those things will be highlighted and will show that even though my previous work experience didn't have the title of content design, I did all of those things in the past and I have the experience to show it. So that's what I did. All of those things, hard work and time and labor. And no one's going to do it for you. You can't sit at home and say, I wish, I want, I like. Nobody cares. You've got to do the hard work to get where you need to. And finally, I applied for some roles. Actually, I applied for two, and I got one of them, and on the other one, I got placed on that you didn't get it, but the next time we need someone, we'll call you and you won't have to interview for it. And the only reason I did that well is because I put so much homework just to get to that point. What's next? What I enjoy about content design, it really involves solving real life problems, and they're always based on what the user needs. And working within government, everything has a policy behind it. And when I write content, my focus is Abdel Fattah and everybody else out there, and not what the government policy is. I need to make sure the government policy is followed, but I need to make sure that Abdel Fattah doesn't even know that there's a policy behind why he's doing everything that he's doing. Earning potential, I put some numbers together just for government services like the government civil service, NHS, which is our healthcare system, Citizen Advice Bureau. Most of them kind of lay within that 40, 45K mark. These are London numbers, I think. These are the main areas where this new thing called content design have roles. But you also find roles within consumer services like Vodafone, Sky, BT, where they have a hell of a lot of products and a hell of a lot of content, and somebody needs to make sense of that for the consumer. I couldn't find any numbers in terms of salary because I couldn't find any live roles, but I'd imagine because they are private sector, there would be anything above the numbers that you see there for government jobs. And finally, there's a lot of buzz around content design. If you are interested in moving into even service design and you have some experience writing digital content, maybe content design might be your way into service design. You can maneuver through all of these if you're smart, and I would encourage it. So if you are in a work environment where you're working on digital, whatever your role is, and you're interested in either content design or service design, I would say look for opportunities like Rahma said, where you can provide content design for somebody else doing something, start writing things within and outside the organization, write blogs, look at websites that are a mess and think, this is a mess, what would I do? And rewrite them, and then create your own portfolio of things that you have content designed yourself, and then you can add those to your CV and just send it to people. But it's a good time to join content design. And that's it from me. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Firdaus. I'm sure there's going to be the questions flying in your way, so they're just loading up. So whilst they just do that, I just want to say firstly, thanks to all of you for joining us. For the people who are just asking questions, and for all the people attending, feel free, get on Twitter, let us know how we're doing, what you think, #Somalis in tech. Let us know your thoughts, let others know as well. So just before we dive into the questions, I just want to thank Sophie. I know Sophie, you have to rush off. Sophie, for those who joined late, is from Idean, and they are recruiting at the moment, so do check them out. They have a few roles. Sophie, what was it, a senior software engineer?
Yeah, we've got two developer positions, kind of senior and lead. Kind of happy to look mid-range as well, and then we've got a visual designer, so a more visual side of a product designer too. But if any of you just want general kind of careers advice, I'd be happy to have a chat. Like I'll put my email into the chat box, so if you want to get any tips on how to get into the industry or different avenues, feel free to email me too, because I'm happy to help out with that stuff as well.
Awesome.
But yeah, awesome talks from all of you. It's been really fun to join.
Thank you very much, Sophie, for joining.
Thanks for having me. It was great.
You. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So yeah, that's Idean.com. You can check them out. They've been very, very forthcoming. So hopefully whenever, you know, we're back in and doing events in person, we'll hopefully visit their offices as well, inshallah. And that's Sophie's, that's Sophie's email in the chat. So anyone wants to get in touch, find out a bit more about design or what they do, then do reach out to them. We're going to start with the question. So I just want to see, there was a question for Rahma that I just wanted to go back to. And it was, yes, how do you identify, Rahma, collect customers' requirements to services needed? So how do you identify or collect customers' requirements to services needed?
So I wouldn't say we collect requirements. I'd say we'd collect sort of needs. And we have user researchers who really specifically work on that, but service designer does a lot of the same work as well, and we'll work alongside user researchers. So it's really, we just use different research methods. It could be anything depending on the budget of the project, depending on the time of the project. So it could be, you know, sitting and interviewing someone. It could be observing people and going to see them do their work or complete a goal and seeing, you know, how do you complete it? What frustrates you through that process? What do you need? What's missing? Is there a different way you're doing it that we might use if we're to design something new? So it's different research methods, if that's the question you're asking. I think that is the question you're asking, isn't it? Yeah, the sort of research methods that we might use to collect needs.
Yeah, I think that's what the question is getting at. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, let's go to we have a content design question for Firdaus. Let me just see. Where are we here? 1 second. Sorry. So what is the most challenging aspect of your job, dealing with accessibility, large print, etc., or is it something else, Firdaus?
There are people who are accessibility experts, so that would not be my day-to-day challenge, but I would be definitely working with them. The biggest challenge is government policy is not written in a language that the average person can understand. So when I can receive a policy from a department to say, let me give you a real life example. When we had the COVID outbreak for the last few months, obviously, as we all know, it had an impact on everything, on every aspect of our lives. And a lot of those things were being decided by government departments. And then so they were creating policies on the fly as these things were happening. And then I at work would just get the messages saying, this is the policy now if you need to get married. This is how you register a birth. This is how you register a death, which was horribly a really, really big area in the last few months. So then I receive the policy and look at it and think, ooh. And also actually in these times, not having enough time to do, a content designer shouldn't move without talking to users first, but it's very difficult when it's like a moving situation like we had with Corona to actually even have time to sit down and find out what the users may need. So I would need to read complex policy and look at that and go, wow, what is it actually that the user needs from this? That's the most paramount. And to create content that is brief, clear, and then allows the person to move in a journey that involves being outside the digital space and also within the digital space. That's the most challenging thing. A lot of us can write, especially as Somalis. I think we're very verbally creative. And I think if you are verbally fluent, you can write, don't be challenged by it, but you can write in a very fluffy, padded way. Most of us write more than we need to. So most of my challenge is writing a paragraph and then saying that needs to be 3 lines. And then I make the 3 lines and say that needs to be a line. And then I look at the line and I go, maybe it's a word. And then I find the word. That's what's most challenging about it, keeping it short and sweet.
Okay. I can definitely relate. I remember in uni just trying to reach that word count, start waffling towards the end. So yeah, it's a skill that we have to unlearn now that it's not about word counts and reaching the maximum. Yeah. Okay, awesome. So yeah, Sophie, thank you. I know if you might be heading out any moment. So yeah, thank you very much for joining today, and we'll be in touch. Yeah, Firdaus, absolutely hear that. That's a skill in itself, to be honest. Mohammed, I have a question for you. It's what is the main difference between, so this question is from Mukhtar, I believe. What's the main difference between project managers and product managers, would you say?
So product managers are more strategic and tactical, and decide what gets to build, how do you market. Whereas project managers, they manage the project. Mainly, they manage making sure that actually the thing that's being built is being built on time. So they are managing timelines. The thing that is being built is built on budget. Often, parts of the thing that's being built is also being outsourced with third-party providers. And third, something called scope. So it's being built under the constraints of the product manager. So as a product manager, I don't need to be spending my day-to-day trying to manage people and trying to manage the budget, making sure that we're not going over budget, etc., etc. You can't do both. I know that there are some, probably the less mature a organization is, especially if it's a startup, they would ask a product manager to also do project management, but it's difficult to do both. So it's and project management itself needs a different kind of skill set. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that definitely did. Just another question for Rahma. I know you have to head out soon. What are any sort of resources that you'd encourage people to look into, or any tools that they might be useful for them to get familiar with that you might be helpful, or it might just be like a good podcast or a good book if they wanted to learn more about service design?
I mean, I think there's loads of people blogging about their work, especially in local authorities, especially in Hackney as well. We all are writing pretty much weekly about the work we do and what impact it has. So I would definitely say look into personal blogs, especially in Medium. I would also say just for learning resources, I generally like, what is it called? You know, the one that comes with LinkedIn? Lynda.com. Yeah, Lynda.com is a really great resource. I mean, it costs money. It's quite minimal. And you can learn quickly if you are the type of person who learns quickly. But I'd also say YouTube. YouTube is a great resource. It's free. There's a lot of stuff on there. But definitely look at sort of case studies and try to speak to people who are probably doing that work as well, and just reach out to people. I mean, never not reach out to people. A lot of people are always happy to help or give you talk about their work. People love talking about themselves, so definitely reach out to people. Okay,
cool. And before you head out, Rahma, how can people reach out to you? How can they connect?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much more active on Twitter now since I'm home with the little one. So definitely reach out on Twitter, or not so much on LinkedIn. I'd say more Twitter.
And what's your Twitter handle?
It's Rahma. So that's RAHMAJM1 at Twitter.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rahma.
Thank you.
And yeah, same question for Firdaus as well. How can what are some of the useful resources or guides? Is it Medium as well, or would you say something a bit different to learn a bit more about content design? And maybe
I think with content design it's even newer than service design, and some people say that the home of where this phrase content design came from is government digital service, which is where I work. So everything you need to know about it is on, if you go into Google and you search Gov UK, GOV UK, and you put in content design, content designer, style guidelines. That will take you to a lot of resources on the Gov.uk website where they talk about what the role is, and then you can see from the description of the role what parts of your experience are reflected in the role if you're interested, what people do on a day-to-day basis, and also examples of what content design is. There is also a website, I think, called Content Design London. I may be mistaken. It's now run by somebody who used to work at GDS and who's now set up her own consultancy, and there are examples in there. Her first name is Sarah. So if you do Content Design London, Sarah, she'll probably come up. So there isn't a lot, but what you will find on the Gov.uk website and the blogs is really more than enough. And that's what I use to get myself the job.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. I just want to say Rahma's heading off, so thank you very much for joining us, Rahma. Yeah, people can reach out to her on LinkedIn, Twitter, hashtag Somalis in tech, and I'm sure she'll be able to give some good advice on service design, which is a growing field as well. And I'm sure they need a lot more sort of diverse roles, diverse people within that. From the experiences that I've had, it's a pretty wide field. So yeah, please do reach out to Rahma if you want to know more about that. What I'll also do is I'm just going to share the, just before people head out, I'm also just going to share to all panelists and attendees. Yeah, that should be a feedback form that I've just put together for us. So do let us know what your thoughts are, what went well, what you want to hear about next. That's another way for us to hopefully get some good feedback so that we make sure that the next events that we put meet the needs that you have. I think people have already spoken about user sort of user-based design. So one of our main goals is to make sure that what we do meets the needs of the people who are trying to work with and serve. So yeah, definitely give us your feedback. Only 2 minutes, by the way, and it's a pretty nice form, so do check it out. There's another question here for Mo, which is how much of your engineering skills do you use day to day as a product manager?
It's a difficult question to answer, actually, in percentage. But I would say, first and foremost, every day, especially when my team is predominantly engineers, so actually coders. So it's important that we are aligned on our engineering strategy. But at the end of the day, I don't sign off engineering strategy. That would be signed off by a tech lead or a CTO. Yeah. So I influence it, but I'm not coding on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm not seeing any code being written. It's more like kind of like consulting with me. Or that's because within engineering, I don't want to go into too much detail. You've got something called frameworks, etc. So it's more kind of like getting my quote unquote blessings at a high level with what decisions we're making moving forward.
Okay, cool. Whilst we have you here, we've got another one as well. I've lost the question, but I remember it was about how do you create a product roadmap? I believe is the question. So yeah, that question's to you. And I'll just try to dig it out as well, make sure I got it right. But let's go with that for now.
Yeah, that's a big question, actually. It's one of the main questions they ask in product management interviews. How do you create a product roadmap? Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, it really just depends on what organization. So as I mentioned, a government organization is probably not there to make profit. They're there to perhaps reduce spent on administration. So what can they automate? How can they build functionalities that allows users to self-serve? So instead of calling the job center or instead of calling the local council, how can they make the website more of a self-serve website? So the first thing so you first start with what is the business goals? Is it to make money, or is it to reduce business costs? And sometimes it's not to make money. So for example, Facebook and WhatsApp is still not profitable after so many years. Instagram, for the first 6 years, it wasn't profitable. And their goal was just to acquire more users, right? And that's also extremely popular in tech. You're building things just to get more and more users to use your platform and to get them addicted to the platform. So you define what your goals are. So if your goals are, for example, let's take something simple, an e-commerce platform, and your goal is to increase revenue by 20% this year, right? So you start with that, and then you start mapping out, okay, what are the things that we could add to the platform in order to make money? Things could include like Amazon Prime, right? Could we include a functionality where users pay £10 a year as a subscription and they get unlimited next day delivery? Could we do something like a one-click checkout that makes buying a lot more easier? Could we create a wish list functionality that allows people to create a wish list for their upcoming wedding, etc., etc.? So you start off with a business goal, and then you start coming up with ideas. And the important bit is that nothing is guaranteed. So you go out and test. I remember someone actually asked, how do you go and test? So the way you go out and test is you'd have a department, first and foremost, people who specialize in testing, and there's different ways to go about testing. There are tools out there that you can just integrate with your product, and you can say, we are releasing this new functionality, and only show to 50% of the people who land on the website, and the tool will do the job. Or, for example, you could just release a functionality in a specific country. So there's a lot of testing involved in your idea, and at the end of the day, nothing is guaranteed. And you might release 10 new ideas in 12 months, and 6 of them might fail, but 4 of them might really boom. So that's, in a nutshell, that's how you go about building your product roadmap.
Cool. Thank you very much, Mo. Thank you very much, ma'am. We got a question for Firdaus, and it is, did the civil service pension attract you to the role?
No. I would encourage, and this is just learning from the hard way in life, not to always chase the pennies.
Okay.
When you need to do it, but
Yeah.
not always. There are times when you have to go where you need to skill up, and then that will help you boost your future income. So no, the pension, no.
Okay, cool. Cool. And how are you finding, another question for you, Firdaus, how are you finding it working in government? What's been the experience? Is it fast paced? Is it slow paced? Or are the different experiences that you have? Are you working with people who are very talented? What's been working in a tech role? As a content designer in government, in a tech function being?
Things are slower within government, but that doesn't necessarily mean that then things aren't happening or that things are boring. The stakes are higher because everything that you do can have legal consequences for the users. So every line you write might have a lawsuit attached to it, or somebody might end up in prison because you wrote something in an incorrect fashion. So there's a lot of consideration over things, and that requires time. But where I work, we have the opportunity to work on multiple projects. So they can be multiple slow-moving projects at the same time. So you always feel like you are doing something. Also at GDS, they just attract the best of the best. So if you want to do a lot of learning, and it's very collaborative, you will get to work with user researchers and other content designers. I think there were about 51 content designers around me. So that's a lot of people to have around you, to learn from and to make a network with. And similarly, like dozens of service designers. And then if you are a permanent member of staff, you do have the opportunity to start moving into other roles. And the way that you do that is firstly forming some informal relationships with maybe a service designer if you're interested in service design, and then talking to your line manager and saying, can I start shadowing people? And then maybe a secondment. So there is a lot of scope for moving within civil service. And then maybe once you've done that enough, you can kind of move into private sector if you want to. But absolutely, they don't pick people who are not good. They pick the best of the bunch, really.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that's actually quite interesting to hear that you could so once you get into one role, it doesn't mean you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life. You can quite easily move into a different role. So if from content to service design to product management and so forth. Cool. We'll take the last question. It's from Halima Gela. Sorry, it was on YouTube. Sorry, I didn't spot that earlier. But it's been reposted here, so thank you. And it's this question's for Mohammed, and it's should someone interested in becoming a PM first work on some aspect of a product lifecycle, like engineering, marketing, business, etc., before segueing into product management?
It would definitely help. Absolutely. I know a lot of product managers, and not all of them actually come from a engineering background. So actually quite a lot of them come from a marketing background. Some of them sometimes actually come from a research background. So absolutely, if you can pick up one or even two aspects of the product lifecycle, it will only help you, land your first job.
Okay, cool. And I just put that same question to you for those. Becoming a content designer, do you need to come from a specific sort of place or certain area, or is it?
I don't think so. I think a lot of people that I work with are ex-journalists, editors. I wasn't that. I came from more of a tech background, but I always had the interest in writing, and then along the way, when I was responsible for websites, I always focused on the content of those websites. So always had, so I was able to show that I've always concerned myself with the content, even if it was not necessarily my role. So I think become a little more of make sure you do your job, but if there's something interesting going on and you can show people that you can do it, start to do those. Don't always think about outside your organization being the place where you find all the answers. Try and do things within the organization and just show initiative. Ask people for help, ask people how you can develop, and you'll be able to progress that way. Don't be shy and nervous, because nobody's going to come and talk to the shy, nervous person. Most people don't. Unfortunately, we're a very extrovert rewarding society. So if you're an introvert like me, and maybe if you're also Somali and we have a little bit of the pride situation going, we don't like to ask for help, but we have to form very strong networks. And the only way you do that is by talking to people and telling them what you want from your life. Cool.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much for those. I just want to reshare the form. So please, people, do give us your feedback. We really want to hear about what your thoughts are. Just before we head out, we're coming into 8 p.m, so we're going to leave it there. I just want to give a big shout out to Mohammed and Firdaus and Rahma as well. Thank you very much for joining us for this first remote event. There's even a few more questions, to be honest, that we haven't had the opportunity to answer. So it does show that people really enjoy this and are quite interested in learning a bit more about non-coding roles in tech. So we'll look to see what the demand is like. We may do a follow-up, but do fill out the form. We do have even questions about what kind of events you'd like next. We just want to go and get your Twitter handles as well, so people can reach out to you. It's clear people have more questions, so please do reach out to Firdaus, Mohammed afterwards. Mohammed, how can I contact you? How can people reach out to you?
If you just type in Twitter, just type Mo Salahan, LinkedIn, same thing, same name, the platforms.
Cool. Firdaus?
I was typing it because I'm a writer.
Oh. I'm not surprised. Here I was waiting. So Firdaus has put that in the chat. Firdaus, could you just let us know, because some people I can put it in the.
Oh, sorry. So my full name Firdaus Ali, and my Twitter is Firdaus Writes.
Cool, Firdaus Writes. And do follow us as well, Somalis in Tech on Twitter, hashtag Somalis in Tech. Let us know what you thought. Let us know. Let's keep the conversation continuing. Hopefully, this is the beginning of something. something big that hopefully we can, a goal that we can work towards together. I just also wanted to give a big shout out to Abshir, who had this initial idea of bringing the community together in this way. He's been the one who's made sure that everything's working in the background. All I've been doing is speaking, but the whole YouTube setup, obviously banging DJ as well, mashallah. So thank you very much, Abshir, for making this all happen for us and bringing us all together. I mentioned already Idean hiring. I did see a question about mentorship as well. Islamic Makers is another community organization aimed at the Muslim community in tech. So they have a mentorship program that they're running now as well. So do check them out. There's quite a few speakers, quite a few mentors that you could reach out to there already in a variety of different roles. So that's Islamic Makers. If you find them on Twitter as well as their website as well. So yeah, I think that's it from us. Adam as well, thanks for running us through the presentation. We partnered with Idean for this event and they're hiring. And even if you feel like that role might not be for you, do get in touch with Sophie, because from the experience that a lot of us have had, just building these relationships is probably how you end up getting a role before you even know it. So yeah, do check out Idean, and do reach out to Mohammed, do reach out to Firdaus, do reach out to Rahma if you have any other follow-up conversations. You never know. I've seen previously Mohammed's been hiring for some roles as well on Twitter, so you never know where conversations can lead you, and it may be that you can tap into his network, and similarly with Firdaus and the other speakers. So yeah, that's it from us. Thank you very much, everyone. Salaam alaikum. We enjoyed it, and we'll be in touch to let you know about more of our events. So do check us out on Twitter. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cool, thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Dayo,